Chillin', got it bumping. Jake!
What up, dude? Can you hear me?
I can hear you great, man. How are you?
Good. We just got back from Costco, so it's like, World War Z out there right now. So, you're just trying to survive. And you don't know if you're being rude to everyone because everybody's got a face mask or wearing a stormtrooper outfit at this point. So
it's true. But I bet that's the highlight of your week now is Costco.
Well, we've been working on our backyard for a while, so it feels like the highlight of our week has been like the garden center at Lowe's or like the nursery. Like we have literally been working on our garden in our backyard. So, we're homesteaders now. So
that's awesome. I can't tell you how many projects I've done at the house, man.
Dude, I told somebody I think I'm going to be a lawyer by the time this is done with all the classes I'm taking. Like, I feel like I can get my MBA. I feel like, I'm going to have a theology degree. I'm going to have a law degree. I think at the
everything.
End of the day, I might run for mayor of Redding. I'm not quite sure yet.
That is hilarious. I'd vote for you, man.
It's so How are you guys doing? How's the fam? Tell me about LA, dude. I miss it.
It's been good, man. It's been crazy but good at the same time. We had literally just moved into a new house about a week before everything hit. So it was just crazy. God, just like total God story. But being here, man, I think the first 3 weeks was the hardest, just dealing with myself. Can't keep myself busy, and the only way I could describe it is I felt like Jesus stuck me in a house. He stuck a mirror in front of me and said, "Look at yourself." And so I've been forced just to see all the deficiencies, and but my wife's over here reading the book of Jeremiah. I'm just walking in circles in my house going crazy. and like there was a point I'm just like, I literally looked at her, I said, "You are going to heaven," like for sure. Like, and then me, I'm just praying God has mercy on my soul. I'm going crazy. But yeah, it was fun. My wife just jumped on right now.
Oh, come on.
She's getting ready. Literally, we leave at 2:00 or 2:15 to the hospital, and she's giving birth today.
Come on. That is so exciting. That's awesome, man.
That's why I had to move a little bit on the schedule because we had the doctor scheduled it last minute, but we're going to have a baby boy by the end of today.
Woo! Barcelona, grown it. You're going to have a boy, dude. So now, how do you feel about the boy?
I don't know how to feel. I feel like right when I kind of got it down with having two girls, I'm getting thrown a curveball here. I don't know. I don't feel prepared in almost every way. It's just weird. I just feel like I'm just kind of look at them and just here we go. I don't really.
You guys, what's the name?
My wife has picked every name of every child, as she should, because she's doing all the work.
Amen.
So, so she wanted to do Jedediah Jeremiah.
Wow, that's beautiful. Come on.
So I was hoping for Brian Barcelona, but she didn't want to go for that.
Yeah, Brian Barcelona the second or Junior usually is better, but it's fine. I mean, whatever you're gonna say. I mean, that's fine. Marcella, that's great. Good choice.
Yeah, she picked it. So it's been really good. But yeah, we're literally gonna head out, man, soon. It's gonna be crazy. So
that's wild, bro. Like it's because that is like, boy, that's a game changer. My boys, especially dealing with young men, like dealing with teenage boys, way different beast. I mean, it's like you guys have been working with teenagers for a long time, but it's different when they're in your house. That's
true,
dude. It's like I love the teenagers all around, it's awesome. And then it's like your own kids like, no, just looks at your face and they're as tall as you. Ezra, dude, you have to see him. He is legitimately 6 foot tall, and he's just a giant man.
He blew up.
It happened in it's crazy because it happened in 6 months. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, I'm looking you eye to eye. So when you're disrespecting me, it is a different beast at this level. You know what I mean? And I get that you're a kid, so you're a teenager, you got to push your boundaries. But I'm like, bro, it's next level when they're like eye to eye with you, So
it's wild.
Bro, you're
I
gonna
know
melt though. It's gonna be
that's
dope.
wild,
Definitely,
man.
man.
You know, it's crazy because I remember on that kind of that topic of family, I remember you know, you were there at such pivotal moments in our lives. I remember the first time I met you, which I don't think you would remember. The very, very first time was in Manteca. No, it was, yeah, Manteca at Rob's church.
Yeah.
And then I re-met you with Todd White
Yeah.
in Los Angeles. And I'll never forget, you were like, man, anything you want to do, I'm here for you, here for your family. You've been there for our family in some great moments, some highlights, in rough patches of our marriage. You've really been someone that's been there, man. And so I just want to start off by saying we love you. We honor you. I'm excited to jump on this talk. And I quote you I would say almost monthly. The number one quote that I quote from you is, don't sacrifice your family, sacrifice as a family. And I always say Jake Hamilton said this. And so, you know, like kind of on that topic, I had my my wife, she's the one who's prepared all the questions for the lives. I feel like she's really been with the Lord. Although I got to interview Jesus yesterday.
Yeah, congratulations. I really like, I mean, I saw the picture, I DM'd you. I was like, man, if somebody's got to interview Jesus, Brian Barcelona. You know what I'm saying?
You know, it was funny. I felt like I had a moment yesterday when I was like, so what do you got to do? Like, what's the simplest way? He's like, just love. And I literally felt like I was in the movie. I'm like, dude, I'm a disciple. I'm Peter. I suck. Like, yeah, he's a really cool guy, man. But anyway,
that's awesome.
I have my wife prepare, and just kind of on this topic, man, what would you say, as young people are looking into kind of moving, you know, maybe into a relationship, they're preoccupied, whether it's been their job, their ministry. What would you say has been like the key thing for you and Nikki to actually keep you guys together? You've been married how long?
We'll be married 18 years in August.
18 years, and it hasn't been always peaches and cream.
No. No. We share, you want to watch our story, you all go to YouTube and watch. We share all the dirt. Like, this is where we were, you know.
I love it too, which I want to ask a little bit later. Actually, I love your story. But what would you say, you got young people that are like, man, I'm kind of feeling like maybe there's someone God's leading me to. I'm not quite sure. Like, what would you say, just really quick on this topic? What's going to prepare them for a successful relationship in kind of juggling life in general, not just ministry, but like life, work, whatever it is?
Well, I think like I would say two things. There's a couple things in this realm. Like, number one, for Christians that are watching this, stop using God as your scapegoat for getting out of relationships you don't want to be in anymore. And that is absolute crap, and you have to stop doing that. Like, that is one of the most awful Christian things. I watch it repeated over and over. Well, I just feel, and it's manipulation when you use it the other way. Man, I really felt like the Lord brought us together. Any of that language, get rid of it. It's awful, it's manipulative, and it's just not healthy for anyone. So just throw it in the garbage now.
Wow.
And that's on both sides, like I said. Manipulative on one end, and then on the other side, it's just disrespectful. I mean, honestly, let's be honest with, because I think the world, this is the other part I would add, I think the world does a better job at dating than the church does. And I say that not because of the physical aspects of the relationship, but honestly, they just call it what it is. So actually, I just want to sleep with you. Actually, I just want to, like, I really just don't like you anymore. Or, you know what I mean? It's like, there's, in the Christian world, it's like, well, maybe the Lord's doing something. Maybe, maybe I'm growing. I'm like, man, just ditch all the junk and like be honest with what you're actually feeling, and recognize that if you overpromise early, you can't go, like, that's going to be a much farther road back. And for young people, I think there's this we're still living, I don't have a ton of time to go into it, but we still live in the age of romanticism in terms of relationships. And it's, everything has to be hyper romantic in order to be real. And real marriage and real relationships has very little to do with your emotional state at that time, or the circumstance that you're going through. And it's why most marriages end, like, I didn't feel it anymore, so I turned to another relationship. I don't feel it. I mean, irreconcilable differences are like the most number one cause of like relationships splitting up. It's like, no, if if Nikki and I would have chosen the emotional path, both of us would have left several times. You know what I mean? It's like, the truth is, what you can do to best prepare yourself for marriage is learn how to get endurance so that you have character in and out of season. Because there are going to be moments in everything that matters in your life where you don't want to do it anymore. Like, you're going to walk with Jesus, and one day you're going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is a sucky path. I would rather be out there doing what everybody else is doing. And at that moment, if nobody's prepared you to have endurance and have actual character, which takes time, then you're screwed in any relationship. Like,
do you think that people are too much in a rush to get into a relationship than they are to prepare themselves for the long term? Like,
absolutely.
And I want to hover on this because you are probably one of the few men that I know, without a shadow of a doubt, you have done ministry with your family. There's an authority you have. You travel with your kids. Your kids play music with you.
Yeah.
I've admired that. Like, you are like the white version of the Selena y los Dinos. You know what I mean? You are Abraham taking his family and making a band. I love it. Like, so what would you say in preparation for young men and young women? What should be their focus when they're single to prep them to have endurance?
Well, I think it's hard because half of it seems like Christian canned answers, but it's actual real Christianity. Like, real Christianity has nothing to do with what you, like, how many people you ministered to this week, how big your platform is. All that's such crap. It doesn't mean anything. How many followers you have on Instagram, how many people watch this Instagram live, like, you know, all that's, how big the meetings are that I do. None of it means literally anything when it comes to doing family. And the thing that you can do to prepare yourself is actually spend enough time looking at Jesus so that as you go out, you're prepared to sacrifice like Jesus. Like, when you're out with your family, it's not sexy. It's not like none of this stuff. We're like, because we watch Instagram and because we're like so fed on comparison, the moment we hit the road, we're like, well, I want my ministry to look like Bill Johnson. Yeah, but you're a 20-year-old kid.
Yes.
You're not going to look like Bill. You want to look like Bill, then give yourself another 40 years. You want to look like Lou. You want to look like Bickle. You want to look like these giants who have plowed ground for us. Give yourself 40 or 50 years. I don't think young people have any grid for what it looks like to endure long term. Because, I mean, Romans says that. Romans says, like, you better get endurance on your life because endurance produces character and character produces hope. And if we're going to be messengers of hope, then we first have to be products of endurance. And I think, like, there's so many people whose words they're trying to preach hope right now, but they haven't sacrificed anything. They haven't fought and survived. They don't have the scars on their body to be able to yell hope from the mountaintops and have it not fall flat on the ground. Because they bailed on the 6 other responsibilities and relationships and friendships they had. I don't care if your friends don't agree with you right now. They can still be your friends. I don't care if we have differing theologies or we're going to head different directions. That's what's dope about you and I. Like, all of our families, I don't have to see you guys for like 3 or 4 months. It's cool. Because the moment you call me, the moment you go like, hey, I need you, pandemic or none, I'd be in LA. Like, there is no show. Like, you know what I mean? There is just, we do this together because we're in it together for the long haul. And I think that so many people have zero vision for long haul. They have a 5-minute vision. They have a 3-minute vision. They have a grandiose, I'm going to be awesome vision. They have a platform vision, but they have no vision for low and slow long term.
That's so good.
And that's just, it's not sexy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's great. You know, when you're talking, I remember you were the first guy that ever told me and my wife, because when we got engaged, we fought we argued like nonstop. There was a point where me and my wife were like, should we even be married?
Yeah.
Like, we can't stop. And she's on this live, so she can attest to all this. And I have no shame in sharing any of this. Like, we butted heads. And I remember when we had shared with you, man, like, is this normal? You're like, this is totally normal. We felt like, wow, for the first time, someone's not like just saying like, well, rebuke the devil. Like, no, I don't think we realize the process that the Bible says where the two become one. That is not some smooth knife on butter. That is 2 completely different individuals merging to become one. And I look at now going on this year, 6 years of marriage.
Come on.
Me and my wife, we've endured some crazy stuff. Quarantine has brought out more craziness. But I look back, man, and I'm thankful for those moments. I'm thankful that even there's this thing like, hey, you may be angry at me, but I'm good. You're going to sleep in the same bed. We're not sleeping apart. So you can go to bed angry, but we're going to be here. We've made that choice. Whenever we've had disagreements, we don't just leave the house. Like we've put that as a foundation. And I don't know, was there any more advice just on this that you would give young people before we move on to the next question I want to ask you, just on enduring and building endurance?
I mean, in all honesty, it's like everything is microwave in this culture. And the truth is we have to learn to die. I think it's really bad theology that's been promoted in the church that elevates the resurrected Jesus over the Jesus on the cross. I think ultimately that's our issue. Like this isn't it's not about end times. I mean, I've told people 1,000 times, the hardest message in Christianity is not end times. It's not signs and wonders and miracles. It's not training people to go out and preach the gospel. The hardest message in all of Christianity is to look a dying person in the eyes and tell them to press in harder. That is the most offensive message in all of Christianity. And that is the reality of what we need to be doing for each other. We need to be grabbing a hold of dying people in the faith, people that are going through hard stuff, and not try to bail them out. We are trying to create theologies that bail people out. That is awful, 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 awful theology. We cannot elevate the resurrected Jesus over the Jesus Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane who chose to submit his life to the will of the Father for the sake of millions and millions and millions and millions of people who would come to follow him in every generation before and after him. And I think if we really want to partner with Jesus and we really want to get God's heart on relationships and marriage, we have to partner with the Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane who said, not my will, but yours be done. Like in Philippians, it says, submit yourselves to one another. Like you want a marriage to last, learn how to lay down your life when your wife says you're an idiot, I hate you, and I think that this marriage was a bad idea. And you, in your heart, know that your love doesn't come from that person, that you have an external, eternal source of love. And if I'm not getting my love from you, then you can stop loving me the rest of your life and I can still choose you. Because the love I have didn't come from you. It's affirmed in you, but I didn't get it from you, which means you can't take it from me. I actually choose to love you the rest of my life. And there's too many people promoting a version of Christianity that elevates a resurrected Jesus and not the Jesus who chose to submit his life to the will of the Father, even unto death. And I think that theological and conversational shift, because Brian, what I need from you is when you see my life out of alignment or I'm hurting, I don't need you to rescue me. Jesus already rescued me. I need you to hold me to the fire so that I can become the man that I was always meant to be for the sake of my great-grandchildren, not for the sake of this week. This week can go to hell and I'll be fine as long as I've built an internal structure that holds me to that and a group of friends that hold me to the fire so I can actually benefit my great-grandchildren long term. Because my inheritance is not my ministry or my money. It's my heart lived for Jesus that I'm going to hand to them.
I think you were the one that might have shared this. Maybe I hope you are, because I'm going to say you were. But you
I'll take credit for it. It's probably Corey, but I'll take credit for it.
No, it's good. I think you were the one that talks about when you get married to your spouse and previous generations didn't serve the Lord and you do, God corrects your lineage and there's blessing from both that come down. So how important is it for us? Like I'm about to have a boy and I can name the Barcelona curses. I mean, you look at my family, divorce is rampant. I mean, second, third marriages from my great-grandfather, Albert Barcelona, who left my great-grandma, all the way trickled down to just different struggles of my own family, the frustrations, the anger, the all the things that go on with family generational problems. And my wife could probably name things in her family. How important is it for two people in the beginning of their stages to realize, like, when I come into this, I think you said it too, your marriage isn't just to make you happy, it's to make you holy. That's another one of your quotes. How important is it to recognize the long-term vision, even for your children in a marriage?
It's the thing is we look at it like this. Do you understand how much had to happen and how many people had to survive just for you to meet Marcella? Like, think about that. Your like great-great-grandparents, great-great-great-grandparents had to basically overcome dysentery and the flu, survive basic things, food, hunger, like reality of survival, just so that so-and-so could meet so-and-so in this so-and-so, and you kind of met here. And then, Brian, you chose some things in your life that led you here, and even the dysfunction of your own family led you to not get saved here, but got saved over here, which you wish you would have got saved sooner. So you are bummed about that, but then God uses that to... Do you understand the amount of complexity that it took for you to meet that woman and choose her over every other woman, and for her to choose you, and those lineages to come together and not believe that every generational curse could be solved by the blood of Jesus, the empowering of the Holy Spirit, the love and mercy of the Father, to put you two together so that your great grandkids, P.S., if your lineage survives, if like you, that's why I'm always saying, dude, Mike, Bill, Lou, just finish well. Like, who cares if you do nothing else in your life? They're going to keep doing stuff. But you get what I'm saying. I'm like, just because the fact is, these guys finish well. We finish well. We get something to our kids that they, 2 generations out, your grandkids will actually never know what divorce feels like in their family line. They'll never know what it's like to have a dad that abandons them for something else. They'll never know what it's like to have a mom that's checking out because of alcohol, checking out because of whatever. Like, they'll never know those. Your grandkids, literally. And the point is, can I pay 40 years for 4 generations?
Wow.
Would I pay 40 years for 4 generations, 4 generations?
Man, we better be getting some amens on this comment bar right now, guys. Come on.
Because the point for me is, like, we're so about getting healed quick. And we're so about getting fixed quick, and we have no vision for such longevity that we're selling our children for a bowl of soup.
Wow.
And a lot of times that bowl of soup looks like a really great ministry opportunity, a really great job opportunity. Like, there's things that, like, I mean, look, we could talk about this a ton. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, look at like, even I'm thinking like Billy Graham. Like, I mean, this guy on his deathbed was like, I would have spent more time with my family. I would have done less. And we're like, what? Guys, this is like, I mean, to me, I'm like, these are people who have championed us. We wouldn't be here in the circles that we're in without some of these guys. And they're going, yeah, I actually would have done less because my family would have had to pay less of a price if I would have given them the attention and affection that they deserved. And it might have looked smaller, but have you read, you've probably read this Final Quest. Have you read the Final Quest?
Yeah, I love Final Quest. Rick Joyner.
Oh my God. I like want to staple it into the back of my Bible. Dude, remember the scene where he goes and meets one of his heroes?
In heaven.
Remember this? He's in heaven, meets one of his heroes of revival, walks up to him and says, this is my Jake paraphrase. Please go read the book. But the point is, he says, this must be the highest level of heaven. And he says, no, this is the lowest level. I'm still in the glory, but I do not get to be at the highest level because I did not take care of my family well.
Wow.
And I think that some of us, we're not signing up for longevity. We're not signing up for the cross. We're signing up for the resurrection, which is beautiful, but you don't get a resurrection without a death. And God never does death without purpose. And so we never do it. There's like, some people think that what we're talking about is like some somber, awful, like, beat yourself up. No, I'm talking about the beauty of the cross of Jesus Christ has to be preached in this hour, because the miracle of salvation isn't that you got heaven. Like, to me, people getting saved actually isn't about, or my kids getting saved. I remember, like, dude, you know, Ezra met Jesus at the first One Voice conference. Like, that's where he got saved. Like, Lindy's leading worship and he got saved there, cried for 4 hours. So it's like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He got, like, we were supposed to lead. Lindy ends up doing her album. And so
2015.
Did
he get baptized?
No, he didn't, because we were only there that first night because they wanted to meet Nick Wojcik. Because they really, my daughter got massively impacted by meeting Nick, but then then Ezra couldn't stop crying. Like, she started singing about the nations, and he's just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing, can't stop crying. You know, he's 9 or whatever at that time, just sobbing, uncontrollably sobbing. And so my point being is the miracle of salvation isn't telling somebody if you say yes to Jesus, you get heaven. I mean, who's going to turn down $1 million check? That's not a miracle.
No one.
A miracle's not, if I believe that you have $1 million and you're going to give it to me, that's not a miracle if I say yes to it. The miracle of salvation is, I want you to give up your life, die to yourself. I want you to have no home, no place to rest your head. And I want you to serve a God who will whisper to you in secret places for the rest of your life. And it's going to cost you everything that the rest of the world holds dear. And if you say yes to it, you'll have something that nobody else on planet Earth has. When somebody says yes to that, that's real salvation. That's the miracle. Right there is the miracle that's what I always wanted to hear. I didn't need the $1 million check. Heaven's a bonus at the end of this. I'm not looking for the resurrection. I'll choose the cross the rest of my life to see 1,000 other people say yes to the exact same thing, because 5 generations after I'm dead, they're going to have a life that nobody else can touch, because you can't kill a dead man.
And imagine if people went into marriage with that mindset.
That's the point. The point is, if I go into this with me going, I'm good. I already have everything I need. Like, I'll serve Nikki for the rest of my life. She doesn't even have to choose me. I told her when we got married, you can go and sleep with whoever you want. You're still my wife. I will still choose you, and I will still be asleep on the porch, even if you decide to live somewhere else. I will be asleep on the porch, and you will have to step over my body every morning you wake up and leave with somebody else. Because your choice in going down a road that isn't healthy for you or for me or for our kids doesn't determine how much I love you, which is what Jesus does for us.
And that's so offensive, even to people listening now. There's some people that are because everyone's looking for the opting out of the commitment. I hear it all the time. You know, I remember one time I preached in Texas, and I talked about how my parents getting divorced really affected me. And there was this one lady there, she was just so offended. She's like, well, that's just too bad. She was in a bad relationship. I'm not saying if you're in an abusive relationship, you stay there and you keep getting hit with in those ways. But I do think, you know, even what you shared, like, man, my pastor always says separation unto restoration. The end goal is always that there's restoration for the long term. And I think you even came to our house one time and you preached on, if we train more young people to know that the moment you sleep with each other, that's covenant. Like, the covenant is, again, I'm just quoting you, man. I think I know a lot more probably than you've realized. I've just gleaned from you, man. But like, I wish I would have known earlier on, like the covenant is something that our generation doesn't even understand, which is why I see people dropping left and right from their callings. I see people dropping left and right from their salvation. One moment they're called of God, the next moment I don't know what God's saying. It's like these tossed to and fro, and it's this constant inconsistency. The only thing constant in their life is their inconsistency.
And that's what's so crazy is it's honestly they're the most profound and simple, like, revelations that allow us to walk this out long term. Like, we shouldn't be teaching young people that sex is a part of marriage. Sex is how you get married. It's how you make a covenant. And the problem is we keep inventing evil, so therefore people keep asking, well, then is oral sex a part of that? Well, like, what about like this? Like, well, we went this far. What about this? And I'm like, first of all, I'm not going to nitpick your sex life and tell you which part is or isn't. Just because you didn't have intercourse doesn't mean you're not married now. What I'm talking about is a heart motivation that says you gave your body to someone else who's not your husband or your wife. Why? I don't care about honestly, I don't care about the fact it happened. Why would you choose that for yourself? Like, what's inside of you that's hurting so bad that you would choose to give your body to someone who was so undeserving? Why would you choose? I don't need to deal with the fact. I don't care, right or wrong. That's why. Because everybody wants to make it right, wrong, intercourse, oral sex. I mean, we did this, and well, what about this? And well, no. Okay, yeah. That's probably not all healthy. Okay, why did you choose that? What in your heart is hurting to such a degree you had to give your body to someone because the needs of your heart weren't being met? And going, yes, the reality is theologically, when you have sex with somebody, you're married to them. And so I'm not teaching my kids, like, I'm teaching my kids that they're going to have a sex drive, And the reason that they have one is because their body is made for covenant. And a sex drive is
Wow.
the wrong language. It's a covenant drive. It's never been a sex drive. Your body at 13, 14, 12,
Longs for covenant.
Your body starts to wake up to the fact that I want to spend the rest of my life in union. I want to spend my life in union. And your body wakes up to it. Your flesh wakes up to it. Your heart wakes up to it. And you start to long for it. But because we immediately connect it with sex, we immediately compound it with shame. And we can't do that to young people anymore, because then they're going into marriage feeling like crap. They're going into marriage and relationships and they're in pain because they think they're gross. And sex is gross, but it's not. It's the first command of all humanity to go and have sex, which is be fruitful and multiply. So how can it be gross when it's God's first command to humanity? All of these theologies and poor language that we've been giving for years and years and years to young people is now slapping us in the face. And they're totally addicted to porn. They're looking for love by swiping left and right. They don't know how to have a real conversation and a real connection. And it's because we actually taught them so poorly what this looks like. And no wonder we all end up in divorce. No wonder the divorce rate is like only a little bit better in the church. It's because we just are looking for a way out. In Matthew 19, that's the passage I always use, where the Pharisees come up and ask Jesus, because they thought they trapped him, and they go, hey, is it lawful to get a divorce? Like, you know, is it okay? And he goes, I love it. Where is it? He teaches on divorce, and he says this: the Pharisees come up to him, is it lawful to divorce one's wife for any cause? And I love it because Jesus says this: have you not read? Like, literally insults them, because they're supposed to be the most read individuals on the planet. And he's like, have you not read? Like, have you not ever read the Torah? Do you not know that it exists? Like, well, are you an idiot? Like, literally, it's Jesus' version of, are you an idiot? Like, you know what I mean? And he says, God made them, and then he gives the 3 standards for a biblical marriage. He just lays it out. Jesus isn't afraid to lay this stuff out. He says, don't you know that they were made male and female, that a man shall leave his wife and cling to his, and by the way, which you kind of mentioned, but I'll throw this out there. The reason that divorce, I'll say this before I read the rest of this, is divorce is awful for this reason, okay? I'm not saying, first of all, that anybody that's gotten a divorce is broken and unusable by God. Good Lord. There's no ranking of sins here. Nobody's ranking anything. We're all broken and jacked up, and we have our story. So if you're divorced and you hear this, only hear it through the lens of love and mercy and compassion, because every single one of us has gone through junk, and there's things we'd love to change about our story. And we know that when you got married, you did not get married to hopefully get divorced one day. You had hope, you had a dream, and the dream was crushed. And I've wept over it a ton, so I feel like I can say this with authority. Like, we totally are with you, 100%. You are not, you're not disqualified. Okay, so hear all that. But the reason that divorce is so awful is because look at the garden. In the garden, God says, I made them male and female. Let's make man in my image, in our image, right? That's the language. So then he makes them male and female. Okay, a man will leave his father and mother, cleave his wife, the 2 will become one flesh. But God is how many? 3 in 1. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right? So then he says now we got 2 in 1. Okay, so the problem is me and Mickey are only 2 in 1, unless you go to the book of Malachi. And in Malachi 4, it says, don't you know that I made them one with a portion of my spirit? What is that now? It's 3 in 1. So what he's saying is, you're not ruining a marriage, you're ruining my image.
Wow.
What you're breaking is not a marriage. You're not breaking a family, you're breaking my image. That's why in Malachi, he also says, I hate divorce. He's not saying it because he hates people who have been divorced. What he's saying is, you're fracturing my image. That's the part that breaks my heart. What breaks my heart is you're fracturing my image. And all I want for you to know is a true version of my image. That's all I want you to know. I want you to see me as I really am. And I don't bail when it gets hard. I will never bail on you. I will never leave you. And some people that watch this, they end up going, well, abused relationships. Dude, I could go on for hours with the testimonies right now. Like, guys, we've seen marriages that have been... Could you share one? One testimony? Abuse always is the trigger. So like, it's always like, well, I'm being abused. We would never, Brian said it earlier, never, ever, ever, ever would we ever suggest, if you or your children are in harm, that you should stay there. That is never an option. Get out today. Go find somebody you love. Go find somebody you know, and go and say, I am being abused. I am being hurt. My kids are being hurt. Like, there is an actual abuse situation, okay, going on. find somebody, get out today. Okay. With that being clear, dude, pastor's son up outside of St. Louis, or actually, where was it? It doesn't matter. It's a friend of ours. His story's insane. They were basically, he was a firefighter. She was being abused for like 8 years. Finally, she goes, I'm out. His dad was the pastor of the church that they were going to. Okay. So he's a pastor's kid abusing his wife and his kids. Okay. Wife goes, don't believe in divorce, but we're not staying here. Bails on it. For 2 years, they are separated, but she never divorces him, becomes an intercessor for him. He encounters the Lord in those 2 years, encounters the Lord, gets radically saved, gets radically delivered, comes back and tells her, hey, I've been like totally healed. She goes, that's really great news. Let's try it out for a year and then maybe you can move back in. They literally try it out for a year. He has been totally delivered, totally set free. This is another 8 years ago now. Another 8, I think it's 10 years ago now. Totally healed, totally delivered. Their family, they've had another kid. Their family's doing amazing. And they took over his dad's church.
Wow.
Like, you guys, listen, we would never go onto the streets and say somebody is too far gone for God. Unless it's a spouse that's hurt us. Nobody on planet Earth has God disqualified. There's not a single person. We would never, ever, ever preach that there are just people on the planet who can never be redeemed, restored, reconciled, or healed. We would never preach that. But the moment it affects us in our marriage, we immediately go, that person can't be redeemed. This marriage can't be saved. And then people go, well, I've already done all that. I mean, we end up walking people through stuff. We've done tons of coaching and counseling, not real counseling, like the church counseling, and the thing is like, dude, people are like, well, I've already done all that. And I go, for how long? That's always my question. How long? And they go, well, a year or 6 months or 2 years. And I go, awesome. How long would God do it for you?
Wow.
Because if your standard is your counselor who told you you're allowed to get out, sure. You want to hear another crazy story?
Yeah.
This guy, dude, this is the craziest story. This dude was struggling in his marriage. They weren't even sleeping in the same bed. They had tons of issues. She might have even had a little bipolar. Their marriage was completely fractured. He's sleeping in another room. She's sleeping in another room. He keeps trying. They're going to this church. He keeps trying to get her to go to counseling. No interest in going to counseling. It's the whole deal. It's like, and he's like, come on, let's figure it out. No, I don't want you to touch me. She has a bunch of stuff going on in her own heart. Totally broken, right? Fast forward, they've been walking through this for years, okay? Handful of years. And finally, then all of a sudden the pastor, one day they're at a men's group and the pastor goes, look, it might be time to just let this go. Like, you need to find somebody that's equally yoked. You really there's something that's happening here and maybe the Lord's releasing you from it. Okay. That was the first time he got permission. Okay. He leaves on a business trip that night. Okay. He goes, wow, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm finally being released from this. Dude goes on his business trip for 3 days over the weekend. As he's at dinner that night, the male waiter puts his hand on his shoulder. And he goes, maybe the whole time I've been gay, and that's the issue. Wow. He has 3 affairs in 3 days with men. Goes home, check this out. Goes home Monday morning, walks in the door. His wife is sobbing and says, I'm ready to go to counseling. Let's get this to work. He missed it by 3 days. Now, here's the point. He missed it by 3 days because somebody gave him permission to give up.
Wow.
And there's no reason to discuss the details of the story. The reality is, we as a group have to learn to fight for this stuff when it doesn't make sense and it's not easy. Like, I want to go to war for stuff, man. Like, men, we were made for war. That's what we were. There's tons of us that are made for war, and we're sitting on our hands and we're being told not to fight. Go fight something else. No, go fight for your family. Go fight for the generational inheritance that's been sitting 6 generations on your family and nobody's picked it up. And it's now your turn to pick it up. That you have something in your family line that's bigger than your ministry and your business and your calling and some prophetic words that you got that may be for your great grandkids. Those prophetic words may not even be for you. Are you willing to
Wow.
lay down your life for prophetic words that you got, that you might be carrying and tearing for your great grandkids? I don't know a lot of men who have that kind of endurance. And it's no wonder they give up on their wives first. It's just insane to me. I guess I get just stirred up because I'm like, man, I want to fight for something with people. I don't want to fight for another gathering. I don't want to fight for another meeting or another building. Like, I want to fight for families, because in 50 years, when we're laying on our deathbeds, that's all we're going to care about. That's all we're going to care about. The last story is, I had a friend of mine who died like when I was first getting saved, and I was still figuring this stuff out. He died in terrible circumstances in Havasu, the whole deal. And I had a dream like right before he died, and we were in heaven, cartoon heaven, you know, with the big clouds and the pearly gates and the whole deal. And I'm in this big long line, and I see this dude walking backwards from the pearly gates, you know, backwards. And I'm like, oh, this place is huge. He must be going somewhere else, to like another part of heaven that's like, this place is giant. So I jump out of line. I'm like, dude, it's nuts. We're in heaven. Isn't this crazy? And he looks at me and he pushes my hand off his shoulder. And he says, you knew and you never told me. And he just shoved me out of the way and walked away. I went and drove to his house, and I got to talk to him before he died. I don't know what happened. All I know is this. I'm using that story to say, like, we're doing that to our families. We know, and we're not saying. We're going after what's comfortable and what feels good for 5 minutes, and not what's going to work for 50 years. And our kids are paying the price. And you're watching it. You know that, Brian, more than anyone. You're watching abandoned kids in the LA school district get their lives completely shattered because nobody will stand up for them. Like, no mom and dad will just say, I choose to stand together in a marriage that's dysfunctional so that I can birth something better in my kids. And that is a very high cost to tell someone when their marriage sucks. And it breaks my heart, because a lot of young people, they're paying a price for our dysfunction and our love of comfort over the cross.
And it's crazy, man, because the most common thing I've heard is, well, doesn't God want me to be happy? And it's what you said, when our gospel is prosperity and when our gospel is comfort, then when you've chosen that path, you can't call people to suffering. Well, if I've had my own family that have said, well, God wouldn't want me to be unhappy for 30 years, would he? Would he, Brian? Would he want me to be unhappy? And you're kind of in this place of, like, you know, back when I was younger, I didn't even know how to respond to that.
Right.
Right. It's like what you said, God is less concerned with our happiness as much as he's with our holiness.
Right, because it's the only thing that lasts. Like, happiness is, like, what is it? So whenever people tell me that, because I get that a ton as well, and I'm like, well, then tell me what happiness is. Define it for me. Is happiness you getting to do whatever you want whenever you want it, and that's your definition of freedom? That sounds like chaos. That's not freedom. Freedom, I am actually more free going home to the same person every day than a young person who can sleep around with whoever they want. I'm more free because I already made my choice. That's freedom.
Wow.
Freedom is making a choice and living by it for the rest of my life.
Wow.
Which is why Jesus isn't an option among many. He's not one of the ways to heaven. He is the only way. And it has to be that way. He is the only way, the only truth, and the only life. I choose him. And when I choose him, I am actually more free because I know that I'm loved.
Wow.
I know that in any and every circumstance I find myself in, I am loved, and I will be taken care of, and I will be provided for. Very rarely in the ways that I think. Amen. Like, you know what I mean? Like, very rarely in the ways that I dreamt up. It's always a different way, but it's always better. And it always transforms my heart into who I actually wanted to be all along and didn't know I needed to be. Like,
so good.
You know,
so good. We got about 10 minutes, and I want to just ask you this, because it may be people because we're going to re-put this up on YouTube as well. And so, but what would you tell someone that says, Jake, you haven't gone through much. You're still married. You don't understand. Like, could you just share a moment where you felt like, I don't know if there is going to be a tomorrow in my marriage? Like, has there ever been a moment where, not that you were going to quit, but where you're like, this is really hard and this is really bad. And Jesus, like, and And then I know, because you're a public speaker, musician, you feel like hypocrite, because like you're out here speaking a gospel you know is true, but then you yourself are having to ask Jonathan, the guy who plays Jesus, yesterday. I said, does it ever feel weird playing the greatest man? He goes, all the time. He goes, there's a moment where he had to stop, and he went to the director, and he's like, I can't, like, I'm so unworthy. And the director says, we all are. And so, I mean, has there ever been a moment in the next 10 minutes, has there ever been a moment where you felt like, man, my marriage is shot right now. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, we've hit that crossroads. Our first time, 2 months into our marriage, my wife was like, I think we made a mistake. So that was like, oh, that's a good start, you know? And then almost 8 years in, we were playing at Jesus Culture Chicago Awakening, and our marriage blew up. That was it. I mean, there was no infidelity. There was no pornography. There's no addictions. There was nothing except for a workaholic husband who did not know how to love his wife, whose main trigger and main trauma had been abandonment and rejection most of her life, starting with her own father. And so for me, it was like, all of a sudden, I'm literally playing. It was the craziest thing, because all of a sudden I'm playing in front of 17,000 people, the largest I've ever played in. And at 18 years old, the Lord told me, you're going to write the songs the whole world will sing. And so, like, at a Baptist church that didn't believe in the voice of God. So now I'm standing in it, and I'm like, oh my God. I remember thinking, this is that promise. Because they're screaming the anthem, I'm royalty, I have destiny. And they're screaming it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. And the next morning, we're sitting with Chris Valentin, and my marriage falls apart and just blows up. And it was because I was a workaholic, and I had made ministry my priority over my family. And I did it in the name of a really great God. And I was talking about an amazing husband and an amazing father, and modeling him horribly to my entire family. And I thank God for Chris Valentin. He saved my marriage multiple times. We don't have time to go into all the stories. You know, there's many a times where our marriage just imploded. And in that case, it imploded the first time, and one of the largest times. There's probably been 3 or 4 times since then over the last 8 years that our marriage has just exploded. And the short version is simply this: like, I couldn't eat or sleep for 7 days, and the Lord took me through 1 Corinthians 13 and showed me systematically all the ways I had hurt my wife, and that I had proven to her that I didn't love her based on the way that God describes love. And so I was able in a week to kind of systematically come back and tell her, after her heart was a little softened, we just walked through all these things. And at the end of it, she just goes, I don't want to be hurt anymore. And what we found out, again, shortened version, is what happened is we just started telling everyone our story. So we didn't hold anything back. I mean, it's a month later. You talk about getting on a platform and sharing. Dude, we shared it all from day one. I don't see how sharing our scars helps us destroy doubt. I just released that song Scars this last week, and the main crux of it was the fact that God destroys doubt in Thomas by revealing his scars, not the empty tomb. And he doesn't take Thomas to the empty tomb to destroy his doubt. He simply shows his scars. And the more that I show my scars, the quicker I show it, and the more I show it, the more humbled and humiliated I am. And as I am humiliated, I'm actually partnering with Jesus Christ on the cross. We don't want to be humiliated. We want to show our greatness. That's why we got a bunch of filters and we only share the good stuff. No, we share the junk. Here's all my scars. God, humiliate me before men, that I might actually be able to be a witness to you before nations. And that, like, for me, has been like as soon as we started sharing it, here's what happened. A bunch of people started coming forward and going like, hey man, that's a really great message you guys shared on marriage. That's so sick. Hey, can we talk to you guys afterwards? Our marriage is falling apart. And it just happened so consistently that we were like, dude, we're in trouble. Like, I'm not talking about, these are like, I had a very famous Christian man come to my hotel room at 3 a.m. in a foreign land. And he's like, dude, your message is amazing, but I can't live it out. And I was like, well, why? He said, because my ministry is so big. If I quit right now and go home and fix my marriage, 200 people will immediately die. And I said, well, for me to live as Christ and to die as gain, who do you trust more, you or Jesus?
Wow.
Like, who do you actually trust? I have no reason to impress you. Nope. Do you think you love these people more than Jesus does? And if you made yourself their savior, you might want to get rid of that quicker than you think.
Wow.
And so for me, our marriage has gone through the ringer, and the only thing that we do is keep exposing it. Every time. We share it as quickly as we get it, because I want people to have fresh bread, not month-old bread. I want them to have the fresh experience that I'm going through. And it doesn't make me a weaker leader. It makes me a more trusted leader, because there's nothing hidden back here. There's nothing behind me that you're going to find. And if you go to my kids and my wife, they're going to tell you the same dirty stories I do. And the big thing, I mean, the catalyst for all of this stuff was trauma ourselves. Our daughter was born with cerebral palsy, and that was a catalyst for us going, we've got to figure some stuff out, and trauma, I don't know, maybe go on that for hours. It's like these traumatic moments of your marriage end up fusing you together when you can say yes to them. I remember a 3-month period where Nikki wouldn't even talk to me, like 5 years ago or so, or 4 years ago. We actually, when we first moved up here, we went through some stuff, and she was dealing with her heart, I was dealing with mine, and it was like 3 months of like, basically, I'm not talking to you, and I hate you. And I'm like, I'm in. I'm 100% in, because God never does death without resurrection, and that sounds sexy, like the beginning of quarantine. Wow, this is awesome. I get to be home. Sick.
Yeah.
A month later, we're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's like,
that's true.
I'm gonna lose my mind. And I think that there's like that beginning part where we go, no, I'm actually supposed to feel it. Like, be kind to your body, and be kind to your body by being honest with your emotions. Be honest with what you're feeling. It's okay to feel afraid. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel bitter. It's okay to be angry. It's okay. Wow. Don't put yourself down and choose shame. Choose mercy. Choose to show yourself grace. Choose to show your body kindness in that way. You know what I mean?
Wow.
People get all offended when they get aroused at the wrong time. Like, why are you beating your body up? The fact that you can be aroused is a gift from God. Like, why would you, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's these silly things that like, oh, I'm getting angry. Better shut it down. No, anger, that's okay. It just says don't sit in your anger. What are you angry about? What are you feeling? Don't deny the emotion. Oh, I'm feeling a little jealous. I'm feeling a little bit like, I wish I had that. I feel a little bit of, you know what I mean? Like, we need to be kinder to ourselves in those moments, because with Nikki and I, that's what's helped. Like, Nikki, here's what I'm actually feeling. I don't know if this is the right language, but here's what I'm feeling. And then she's able to come and go, well, here's what I'm feeling. Now, we learn that over time. It's a dance, and we step on each other's feet a ton. But at some different times, we each have to lead so that the dance can actually happen. And through the trauma and those traumatic experiences, like, again, all of them were just our junk re-manifesting. And all of us, because I would say it this way, as we end this part, I would just say it this way. If you married all of your triggers, you married well. Okay? Because God marries you to all of your triggers, not because he's mad at you, but because he wants to heal you. So every time the trigger comes up, it's not a reminder of how bad your spouse is, but how kind God is to say, I see that in you, and I want to heal that in you. Let me deal with it. Like, no, that's not your spouse. No, that's not your spouse. That's me. That's me. I did that. I had her say that thing that triggered you, and now you're like spiraling in your head. No, I did that. It's okay. Not because I'm mad, not because I'm trying to be mean to you. I want you to know that trigger is still there, and I want to heal you from it. Will you let me have it? Will you let me have it? Stop yelling at your wife for it. It's not her fault. It's actually your parents' fault. It's actually your grandparents' fault. Actually, you learned that with your first girlfriend or your second girlfriend. Hey, that's actually a part of your poor sexual history. I'm bringing it up, not to shame you. I want you to get healed. Can you give it to me? And so we've done this dance for a while, but I like you said earlier, we need people in our lives, and we talked about it. We need people who aren't just going to give us the easy answers. They're going to crawl down in the pit with us and sit there and go, okay, what are you feeling? Well, I'm pissed. Awesome. Let it all out. What do you mean? No, let it all out. I think too many times we're just like trying to lay hands on people and not letting them just actually experience what they're feeling. We're dishonoring God-given physical emotion to spiritualize it in a way that makes us look like heroes instead of people getting to deal with their junk. And letting someone, looking them in the eyes and like going, hey, do you think I can't handle it? Let it out. Were you pissed? Let it out. Let it out. Go. Well, I don't know where that road leads. I may never stop crying. Good. What's wrong with that? What if you started crying and didn't stop for a year? Is that to make you a bad person? Why would that be okay? Why would that be bad? Why are you determining that crying for a year over the hurt and trauma that you've experienced over your lifetime is a bad thing? Who's going to mourn it if not you? If you're not going to mourn it, who's going to mourn it? If you're not going to weep over it, then who's going to weep over it? If you're not going to get angry over what happened to your mom, what happened to your dad, what happened to your brother, what happened to your cousin, what happened to you, if you're not going to get angry, then who's going to get angry? You know? And I'm like, I just feel like we have to let ourselves feel and get friends around us, real relationships who go, no, go there.
So good.
So,
you know, we got to jump off in like 2 minutes, but in 1 minute, how important is it for couples dating and marriage to have people that speak into them? Just in 1 minute, how valuable is that?
I'll tell you that right now, it's non-negotiable. Here's the point. You will know you're doing something wrong when you won't let other people in. Because darkness always likes to hide, light always likes to shine. That's it. And when you're getting people out and they keep trying to push themselves in, you are in the wrong every time. Because no version of Christianity can be lived out in isolation.
You say this, another Jake Hamilton quote, if God wanted it to be you and him, he'd make a planet, put you on it, and that'd be it.
That'd be it. And the point is it's just not that way. And we need people. Like young people who are dating, get people involved. Like get people who are really God-fearing and are gonna, here's the way you know you're talking to the right person. Are you scared to tell them? If you're scared to tell them, it's the right person. If you have no problem telling them your junk, and you're like, it's no big deal, I'll just tell them, it's not the right person. You need somebody who you're just a little afraid of to bring it to, because you know it's going to cost you. You need that person in your life.
So good. Jake, will you just pray for us, man, really quick?
Absolutely. Lord, I thank you so much, first for the Barcelonas. We pray for that pregnancy, for this delivery right now in Jesus' name to go so smooth. Marcella, I know you're listening, and I pray peace over your body. I pray supernatural childbirth right now in Jesus' name.
Yes.
I pray that God would carry the weight of the pain and carry the weight of the cross in the middle of your circumstance today, that the doctors would walk in such wisdom and tenderness and mercy and compassion over you, and that Marcella, I just pray, even what we just talked about, that you would not try to, that you somehow in your spirit, you would be more checked into your body than in any time you ever have been. That you would know that you're giving birth to a little boy who will carry the promises of your family and Brian's family into places that you guys never even dreamed it would go. That you are carrying fire within your belly. Marcella, you've always been a prophet. You have always been a prophet, and you are birthing a prophet. That this child will be a prophet in a way that no other Barcelona has ever had a chance to prophesy. He will carry a prophetic gift with such authority and weight that when he speaks, nations will shift and shake at his coming, because they know that he is a man who walks in such tenderness, humility, and holiness that people actually begin to fear his coming, because they know that holiness will breed judgment in the stuff that they're walking in. As a real prophet walks into a room. And so God, we ask that you would raise up prophets right now, just as it's a significant day, even for California. California, this is 40 days of quarantine. It is the 40th day. So there is a shifting that's happening today. The birthing of your child, Barcelona's, that is a shifting that God is birthing. He's transitioning something new. It began with a reformation. It's a reformation of the church that began with Kanye, moved into COVID, and it's actually reforming the church into the way she was always meant to be. This will never be about meetings again. It will only be about family. It will be about marriages. It will be about children, and we will fight for it together in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Jake, I love you, man. Thank you so much, bro.
I love you guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, we'll talk soon, man. All right, bye.